Welcome. Today, we're jumping right into the incredibly complex and, let's be honest, sometimes messy world of data. It's a world where it feels like every department has its own set of tools, its own systems, and its own version of the truth. We're going to be looking at a platform that's making a big promise to unify that entire universe. It's called Microsoft Fabric. So if your data landscape feels more like a tangled web than a clear roadmap, you're in the right place.
So, here's our game plan. First up, we're going to talk about the modern data problem, something so many of us are dealing with. Then, we'll introduce Fabric as the potential solution. After that, we'll take a quick tour of what's actually inside this thing, then zoom in on one really powerful feature to see how it works, and finally, we'll tie it all together to see what happens when you truly have everything in one place.
All right, let's kick things off at the very beginning. Because before you can really get excited about a solution, you've got to understand the problem and the chaos it's trying to solve. So let me just ask you this. Does your company's data feel a little bit chaotic? You know the drill, right? You're probably using one tool for reports, another for data pipelines, a totally separate one for machine learning, and yet another for any kind of real-time analytics. Look, each one is probably great at what it does, but none of them talk to each other. It's an incredibly common situation, and honestly, it's super frustrating.
And what you get from all these disconnected tools are data silos. Marketing data lives over here in its own little world, completely walled off from the sales and operations data over there. This kind of fragmentation makes it almost impossible to answer what should be simple questions, like, hey, how did our last marketing campaign actually affect sales? It's just inefficient, and it completely stalls out any chance of getting real insights quickly.
So how in the world do we fix this mess?
Well, that brings us right to our second section. Let's introduce the hero of our story, a single platform that's designed to handle, well, pretty much everything.
Microsoft Fabric is officially defined as a unified platform that can meet your organization's data and analytics needs. And the most important word in that whole sentence is unified. The entire point here is to replace that clunky patchwork of tools with one single cohesive environment where everything just works together.
You know, a really good way to think about this is like a master toolkit. Instead of having a messy garage filled with tools from a dozen different brands that all need different batteries and weird attachments, Fabric is like one professional-grade kit where every single tool is engineered to work perfectly with every other tool.
Okay, so what's actually in this master toolkit? Let's go ahead and take a quick spin through what Microsoft calls the Fabric experiences.
What's just incredible when you look at this is the sheer scope of it. You've got Power BI for your charts and dashboards, Data Factory for moving and transforming data, and then you have these specialized environments for data engineering, data science, and warehousing. It is literally the entire data analytics lifecycle, all the way from raw data to the final report, all living in one place. This is the everything part of the promise.
And this is the secret sauce. This is what makes it all possible. How can all these different experiences play so nicely together? It's because they are all built on one single foundation called OneLake. Just think of it as one massive logical data lake for your entire company. Suddenly, there are no more silos because everyone is working from the same single source of truth.
Okay, I know that was a lot to take in. So to make this all a bit more real, let's zoom way in and do a deep dive on just one of those experiences, real-time intelligence.
So this part of Fabric is all about handling what you'd call data in motion. We're talking about stuff like website clicks, readings from IoT sensors, or financial transactions as they happen. We're not analyzing what happened yesterday. This is all about understanding and reacting to what's happening right now.
And the process for this kind of data is just so streamlined. Let's imagine a sensor on a factory floor. First, the data is ingested. Maybe it gets transformed from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Then it's stored, analyzed for any weird patterns, and then visualized on a dashboard. Finally, and this is the cool part, it can trigger an action, like sending an alert. The key here is that this all happens seamlessly inside Fabric, from the sensor all the way to the action.
So where does all of that fast-moving sensor data actually go? Well, it gets stored in a special kind of database called an Eventhouse. You can basically think of it as a high-speed storage container that's built specifically for this constant, never-ending stream of event data.
And how do you keep track of all these different data streams? That's what the Real-Time Hub is for. It's like your central command center where you can see and manage all the data in motion that's flowing into your organization, whether it's from factory sensors or website clicks.
And now for what I think is the most exciting part.
the Activator. This is where the insights turn into actual actions. Let's go back to our factory sensor. The Activator is the component that's constantly watching that data stream. The second it spots a temperature spike that you've told it to look for, it can automatically trigger that alert we talked about. It's what closes the loop from just analyzing something to actually doing something about it.
All right, let's zoom back out for our final section and see how this all connects. We just looked at one very specific experience, but the real magic happens when you connect it back to the entire platform.
And here is where it all clicks into place. That real-time sensor data that we were tracking in our Eventhouse, a data scientist can instantly tap into it to build a predictive model. At the exact same time, a business analyst can be visualizing it in a Power BI report. There's no copying data, no moving it around, no delays. The data is in one place, and it's available to everyone. That's the power of unification.
And that really brings us to the big idea here. The future of data isn't about just buying more and more tools to throw in the pile. It's about consolidating onto a single, unified platform where everything is designed from the very beginning to work together. It's a shift from complexity to clarity.
So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. What could you and your team actually build if you removed all the friction between your data tools, if you had every single capability you needed all in one unified space? What becomes possible then?